Hello, I'm Lloyd Moyer. Um, Today I'm going to turn another piece of this maple that I've been working on lately. Um, and the stuff that I have been turning has been really quite stable. So I think today I'm going to take this blank that I've cut out. It's around 10 inches in diameter. Um, and I'm going to turn it all the way until it's done. I'll turn it relatively thin and see what happens when it dries out. It'll warp and move, but it'll probably just go kind of oval. Um, so that's what I'm going to try today. Thanks for watching and enjoy. So this is going to go on my screw center and turn the lathe all the way down and then back up to as slow as it'll go and feed it on there. Let the lathe do the work. See if I hit my vacuum hood here. Yep. Okay. And then I'm just going to lock the spindle down and tighten this up. I don't have very many complaints about this big yellow monster of a lathe here. But one is that it does not have a locking, it's a spring-loaded lock on the spindle. So you can't lock it down and leave it. You've got to lock it and hold it. It's kind of a pain. But again, as far as complaints go, that's not too bad. So the first thing to do is just going to be to even this face out. And I think I'm going to use my bigger tool rest. Little extra support. Okay. First, just going to take off some of this unevenness. This is my my 1/2-inch deep fluted bowl gouge. For some of the heavy work, I'm going to use the heavier tool. All right. That's a flat bottom. I just got to take off the corners and the bark here, and maybe now I can switch to my, just going to switch to my little spindle gouge here. Was kind of a wise idea that I think I heard from Richard Raffin. Use the spindle gouge because it's cheaper. All I'm doing right now is just getting it round. I'm starting to get a little bit too far away from the tool rest for my comfort. And maybe for efficiency's sake, I'm going to go back to the bowl gouge because the spindle gouge on this size of piece just isn't cutting efficiently enough for my taste. All right, now we're a little flat space there. I'm gonna even out the top face so I know what kind of depth that I'm working with. And then I have to take away some of these flat spaces here as well. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark on here with a pencil how far in I have to go. Bring the speed up, going about 900 now, 925. So now I have marked the round spot. Let's get a foot on this before I always want to put a foot on the bowl relatively early on, so that if something happens and it pops off of the screw center, I have something I can put it on. I think we'll use the larger chuck. And you want to make the scratch with the left-hand side and line it up with the right without touching the right-hand side to the wood, because then it'll bounce back at you. Going back to the spindle gouge to do this. Now this doesn't have to be exact, because I'm planning to turn this green as it is and let it warp. I'm probably going to take the foot off. Okay. So now I have everything sort of set for how I want it to be. Oh, that's not quite round. That's not quite flat yet. So I'm going to flatten that off. And then I can work on the shape. And I'm thinking of just a gentle curve here. I'll probably come back and do that again with a scraper. Okay, now let's see if I can get a nice cut here with the gouge. This maple has been finishing unlike anything I've ever turned before. It's sort of a matte, getting sort of a matte finish out of it that's really lovely. I don't know how else to explain it. Taking material, just sort of, I'm going to take some more aggressive cuts off of here because I need to take off some heavier material to get my curve the way I want it. There we go. That is just the right shape. That is just what I'm looking for. And then I'm going to have a little, I think I'm probably going to put a little inset bead coming down from the top. Actually, as I'm looking at it, I also don't mind this little bead at the top, although maybe I don't need both. I think I'm gonna stick with the inset bead. Okay. Not quite flat at the top here either. Let me just do that. When you're when I'm designing the profile or focusing on the profile, I want to know where the rim is going to be at the end, because I mean that makes a big difference, right? So I want this to be clean. All right, so now I'm just going to come back and redo this upper profile. And the cut that I'm making is, it's with this part of the tool, just above the nose of the tool. And then I'm going to come back and just do a shear cut in from the very top, just to get that last little bit. And then this will, if I project this curve through the foot, my base is probably going to be something like about there. Now I'm just going to get my shear scraper for that very last bit here, right at the corner. Just take a shear scrape along the curve. Just to get just to get this curve sort of smooth and regular. A scraper is great for evening out all the bumps and ridges that a gouge will give you, and get you a very nice curve. I want to even out this, the base here. Forgot about that. I'm a little low. Um, and I'm not really, there's no pressure going against the wood here. It's almost, I'm just sort of stroking it. So what I'm going to do first, before I put my bead in, I'm going to go over this with 120 grit. This is still a little wet. Probably saw some of the wet patches coming up through the end grain. And actually the 120 grit here is drying off the very surface. The heat is going to dry off the very top surface. Which then makes me able to sand the rest. Just want to fix my curve a little bit here. Normally you don't go downhill in this situation, but I think maybe I can get away with it. If I can, I can come back with the scraper and clean it up a little bit. That should be fine. Now I'm going to go back in here and put in my inset bead, and I'm going to do that with my 3/8 spindle gouge. And really all I'm going to do is sort of pivot into the wood and then back out again. It's really sort of moving in a circle. See if I can do this without messing it up. No promises. That's it. I'm just going to clear up the entrance here and the exit. When the sandpaper feels like it's not pulling at the wood, or the wood is pulling at the sandpaper, it's time for a new piece. Sandpaper gets dull the same as your tool does. You don't want to cut with a dull tool. Same goes for your abrasive. if you're so inclined, maple like this is great for dyeing and painting and burning and all kinds of decoration because it's pretty plain. Um, and I think some of the maple that I have, it's not something I do very often, but it might be something I'm gonna experiment with. I can never seem to get it to look the way I want it to. Um, but I think I might try it. It's 320 now because this wood is wet still and it's going to move. I'm not going to oil it. I'll wait till it's dry to put any kind of finish on it. I've also heard of people that do this step and then go have lunch or go to bed for the night or come back in a few hours. Don't do that. It'll move on you just that quickly. That looks very pretty. This is the foot here is a little bit too big for the chuck. So I'll have chuck marks, but that's okay because I'm gonna take the foot off anyway. And I probably should set a depth with this. I actually think this depth drill is not really long enough for my purposes, but it gives me something to start with anyway. Again, half inch deep fluted bowl gouge. I was wondering why shavings were hitting me in the face, and I took my mask off and didn't put it back on. The depth that the wall thickness that I'm going to be shooting for on this is about that. I think, which is not terribly thin. But it's thin enough for a practical piece. Reached in a little bit far there and caught the corner on my hand. Burned myself a little bit. A little thick in the bottom part of the curve. That's better. A little ridge right there. Good. Now you hear that whining starting to get a little bit far out on the tool. And so the tool is bouncing around a little bit. A little ridge right there. Okay. Something that you normally do with a scraper here, but a little bit cleaner with the gouge, I think, actually. Good. Now I'm going to come in here with my scraper. So I'm going to get a fresh burr on this scraper. Two things. Tailstock is in my way. I'm just a touch low here. You can get a nice cut with a scraper, but you've got to be gentle. And you've also got to take your time. It's funny, when you're spinning at 1,316 RPMs, I realize that it's a little bit ridiculous to talk about taking your time. But you really do have to take your time and be gentle, especially with a scraper. You can get a nice cut, but it's also very easy with a scraper to get a really, really ugly cut or really bad gouge. Sometimes even when you are taking your time and being gentle and all of that, with a scraper, you can get a bad gouge. Now I'm a little bit, I feel a little bit thick in the bottom here still. Mess that up. Ridge right there. It's still a little thicker than I need to be. In the bottom. That's good. If I can make that right. Better turners than me do this more efficiently, but I just take my time. Okay. And the rest will be for the power sander. I'm starting with 120 grit. And I'm going to slow the speed down just a little bit. I find when I'm power sanding, a slightly slower speed is more efficient. So I'm taking it down to about 660. So one of the things I'm looking at is I have a little line right here. It's from where I don't know what it is. Okay. It's funny, the water is already coming out from the centrifugal force. It's already coming out on the back side here. 320 next. All right, that's all for that part. Now I'm going to turn this back around again and we'll take the foot off. So what I have here is a piece of scrap that I have lying around the shop that I'm just going to use as a jam chuck. And I need a little piece of scrap wood to go up against the base here, just like that. And actually, I'm going to put a piece of padding on the inside. Something about like that. The hard part of this is finding that spot that is centered. Or that's at least pretty close. That's about as close as I'm going to try and get it. What I'm going to use here is my 3/8 inch spindle gouge. And I'm just going to take a shearing cut . Have this little line right here that I'm trying to get rid of now. Probably do it with sanding. Good. That's how it's staying. Sanding with 180 grit. Good. That looks good. Now I'll come back in a few days after this has had a chance to dry out. I might toss it in the microwave even. After it's had a chance to dry out and warp, and we'll throw some finish on it and see how it came out. So here I am back at just a few days later, and this piece has gone quite beautifully oval. It did get 2 stints in the microwave, each for about a minute, and it is now about 9.5 inches on one side and about 10.5 inches on the other side. And you notice here's the pith running here. So it's actually gone oval to the side of the pith, which is kind of cool too. I think that it is just very ever so slightly wobbly. So on the bottom, let's see if you can see. I can't even see where the high point is on the base, but it's there. And what I'll do is I'll just run that over a flat piece of sandpaper a couple of times, and it'll be good to go. So I'm just going to put some finish on this, and I'm using my this goat finishing wax for this one. This maple really gave me a good matte. It's like a maple so often finishes so nicely with a high gloss finish when you sand it, and for whatever reason this tree isn't doing that. It's a little bit more matte, and it might be just because it's wet, but I really like it. Then it'll just get, I'll let it dry and then give it a buff. You can also see how this has gone beautifully, sort of started to bow a little bit.